All right. Here's our housekeeping. Please keep your lines muted unless speaking. We would love for you to share stories, experiences, and tips, ask some questions. If you're not comfortable asking, you can always put them in the chat. There's some chat stuff in there right now. Lisa put Happy Earth Day in there. So you can always put a question there if you don't want to talk live. Make recommendations. Tell us what you'd like to know. We run out of topics sometimes and ideas, and we think what would be most helpful for all of you. So if you want to put some ideas in the chat, that would be great too. And we will get that done and presented to you. We will be doing a free giveaway. The giveaway will be one set of customized leave behinds with your logo, your colors, your contact information. We're giving away June. So all you need to do is type the word yes in the chat if you want to be entered into the drawing for free giveaways. The only caveat is that we need for you to please send us pictures of you giving those out. We'd love to see the pictures and see how it turned out. So if you would like to be entered in the drawing, just type in yes in the chat. And then you're agreeing also to send us pictures of the leave behinds once you're out marketing with them. Let's see. Did anybody put anything in the chat? We've got anything in there? Any yeses?
Oh, yeah. We had a lot.
Okay. All right. So today we are covering, my thing is not going. Okay, here we go. Today we are going to unlock the growth, master the high impact hospice partnership. I know many of you are probably already partnered with the hospice or forming a partnership with hospice. It can be a really great relationship. We always had partnerships with hospice. They're usually bigger jobs. They don't last as long, but they are bigger jobs. It's a great, you need to mix your basket of referral types, right? And so partnering with hospice can be good. That's what we're going to talk about today. So it's going to be a practical guide for home care agency owners and administrative staff on building a powerful client-centered partnership with hospice providers, because together we can do more. Agenda, we're going to talk about collaborating for comprehensive care. We're going to talk about the big misconception, what hospice actually provides, our home care vital role in hospice client care, building that partnership, growing the partnership, a day in the life, and then key takeaways and next steps. So the big misconception, and I'm sure many of you, I know Lisa Marcellet talks about this all the time, is that when a current client of yours is already with you, everything is going wonderful, and then they hire hospice, they call and say, I have hospice now. I don't need your services anymore. Many do not understand that it takes both home care and hospice to support this client. Families believe that when a loved one is enrolled in hospice, they assume that all their care needs are going to be covered. It's all going to be covered around the clock every day, and it's free. How good is that? They believe hospice will be there whenever something is needed, and that bringing in additional help is either unnecessary or maybe even not allowed. And I have had some of them say, I don't think you can come. I have hospice in the home. But the reality is hospice is medical and palliative care model. It's not 24/7 caregiving services. So there's nurses, there's aides, there's social workers, there's chaplains, and they're all scheduled on an intermittent basis. They're not there 24/7. They're not there around the clock. They're not there at night. They're not usually there on weekends. So home care is essential because we're filling the gaps between the other people that are coming for hospice. And so what hospice actually does, what does it actually provide? So there are skilled nursing visits. They usually only come 2 to 3 times a week. As the end kind of gets closer, they might come more often, but typically it's 2 to 3 times a week. And I would say maybe an hour, less than an hour. Annette, Lisa, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
They usually just pop in to see how things are going.
It's usually pretty fast. Yeah.
Quick.
Lisa, do you think under an hour?
So yeah, I think about 45 minutes is usually the time frame.
They just come in
for the first assessment.
They're for when they're actually onboarding them or whatever. Right. So they come in, they assess the symptoms, they manage medication, they coordinate the care plan. They're not there daily or overnight. And it is a quick kind of pop in and out. They do have aides. The aides may assist with personal care a few days a week, typically for a limited number of hours. It's nowhere near the level of daily support most families need. There's usually a social worker and a chaplain. They're there to provide emotional, spiritual, logistical support, which is really important, but it's not hands-on. And then medication and equipment. Hospice covers medications related to terminal diagnosis, as well as hospital beds, wheelchairs, those kind of things. So as far as people being in the home, it's not very much. And what I found with hospice, and at least Lisa and Annette can pop in too, is that you're there for the client. I'm not saying you're not there for the client, but this family really needs a lot of support with hospice. They're so afraid to leave bedside. They're so afraid to sleep at night. They're so afraid their loved one is going to pass while they're asleep, or they're in the bathroom, or whatever. That's what I'm seeing. So it's a lot of emotional support for the family too. It's not just for the client. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, not only is it that, but reassuring them that you're there for a reason, that they can go to the store and they do need to get out. I know that not to, for it to sound selfish, but they do need to get out and get some fresh air and do something other than just being there and scared of what's next, right? So I always try to encourage the spouse or the family, go ahead, that's what we're here for. You are okay to go and come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Annette, do you have anything to add to that?
Usually there's always a lot of family stopping by, and it's nice to know that they have some support if they want to go take a nap. It's usually too, I would say we had certain caregivers that like to do hospice cases. They're kind of maybe sitting there more. You're not really doing a lot. You're maybe just sitting while they're resting or getting them a blanket or water. But I think the family feels very comfortable knowing somebody that is there to support them, and they're not alone, and their loved one has eyes on them constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And my screen keeps freezing. Goodness. So home care is there when hospice cannot be. So again, as we were just saying, overnight coverage, that was a really big one. Most of our hospice cases were 24/7. But if they weren't 24/7, they were overnight awakes, because between all the family, they could cover the daytime, but they needed someone there overnight. And so they are exhausted. They need to sleep. We want them to enjoy their loved one as much as possible during this time. And if you're exhausted, that's probably not going to happen. So it's an overnight awake. Typically, the caregiver is not sleeping. They're watching their client and making sure everything is okay. Weekends and holidays, hospice visits typically are Monday through Friday. So home care agencies provide reliable coverage on weekends and holidays anytime a crisis or family need arises. The daily personal care, bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, medication preparation, light housekeeping, or meal preparation, light housekeeping, any of those kinds of things, home care, the caregivers can take care of that. And those fall outside of what hospice typically does. The aides might do some bathing, but it's not the kind of thing that we would do in a home care agency. Companionship and presence. So that end of life presence matters deeply. Caregivers offer consistent companionship, a calming voice, a familiar face. It reduces the anxiety for the clients and the families altogether. And that said, I had several caregivers that preferred hospice clients. This is what they wanted to do. They were good at it. They enjoyed it. They liked being that emotional support. They've been with several hospice clients through the years. And so it is nice to have some caregivers that prefer this kind of work, because it is very different than, I would say, just a regular home care client where you pop in and your companionship and cleaning and doing all those. It's a very different kind of care model. So how do you build that partnership? How does home care and hospice, how can they share clients successfully? That effective collaboration between home care agencies and hospice providers doesn't happen on accident. It requires clear communication, mutual respect, aligned goals, all centered for the client's comfort, dignity, and wishes. I will say, and I'm anxious to hear what Lisa and I have to say about this. I never did just choose one hospice agency. Many of them wanted just this one-on-one. We only refer to each other. We refer to no one else. And I never wanted to corner myself that way. And it can be hard because the ones that came for me, that's what they wanted. They wanted it to just be, we only refer to you, you only refer to us. I don't think that that's a good, for me anyway, I didn't feel like that was a good, I wanted to be open to other hospice agencies. I wanted to be able to send my clients to other hospice agencies from time to time, making something happen. I don't know, but I never felt comfortable. How about you guys? How'd you feel about that? If somebody asked you, let's just the two of us and nobody else, an exclusive partnership.
Yeah, we didn't do that either. We had 3 hospice agencies that we worked with just because we didn't want to just focus on one agency. We wanted to be available for everybody.
Yeah.
We didn't get a ton of referrals for hospice. We did get some. So it was nice to work with all the different agencies.
And I like too to have the family talk to a couple. I wanted to give my families options. I didn't want to say, this is who we work with and this is it. I wanted them to be able to interview a couple of hospice agencies, which is another reason. How about you, Lisa? How'd you handle that piece?
Yeah, we definitely did have a few hospice agencies, but I had people that I really just preferred working with because they were just so good and I knew what I was getting. And that's the same thing they would expect from us. There was a few, that I definitely would love to work with and be like, hey, and I would say, I've worked with these people before and I love working with them and I know you're going to be taken care of and I can get that person out to speak with you if you're interested. And then there was on the flip side of that in Arizona, when I was in Arizona, we actually had a hospice agency that was attached to our company. So that was hard because I had other hospice agencies that I also wanted to work with or was open to because they were just great. So that's a little difficult, but yeah, I think it's good to give patient choice.
Yeah, definitely. So this is a great chart and you guys will get a copy of these slides. This might be something worth cutting and pasting into a document or even just printing the slide, a shared care model, who does what, so that your clients understand what the roles are. So pain and symptom management is hospice's role. It's their primary responsibility. We observe and report changes. We obviously can't do the medication or administer it, but we're observing and reporting changes. Maybe the medication is wearing off faster now. We need to let somebody know that. So that's the kind of thing we're doing. Medication management. They prescribe and coordinate. We remind, observe, and document. Daily personal care, limited aid visits. They may come in and do it from time to time. It's very limited. Where home care, we can do that daily. Overnight supervision is not provided by hospice. Home care fills this gap. Family caregiver support, they do have social workers and counselors, and then we provide the hands-on relief and respite. Emergency response, they do have an on-call nurse line, and if the end is coming, they will come out to the home. Mostly, though, you're calling, and then they decide if they need to send somebody. Where we are home care, physical presence on site, companionship. They do a volunteer program. Our caregiver is their daily consistent presence. So I thought this was a nice chart. We know what all of this is, but for your clients and their family members, when they call and say, oh, we don't need you anymore, we have hospice, this kind of helps clear that. Even with home health, they'll do that. And the home health nurse comes 3 times a week. That's it. And PT maybe twice a week. Like, it's not going to be enough. So it's a great way to explain it to them. Some people are more visual. So communication is the cornerstone. So when you sign up a client, always find out if hospice or home health are in the home or if they're going to be. And if they are, you need the phone number, you need a contact name, you need the company name. We need all of that information because communication is going to be so important. Our home care caregivers, what they observe matters. The caregivers spend more time with the client than any other member of the care team. They notice changes in breathing and appetite, pain levels, skin condition, and mood way before anyone else does. Imagine if the nurse is coming twice a week. Yeah, she's going to see that something's different after 2 or 3 days for sure. But the caregiver is going to see it as it's happening and needs to report it in a lifetime. A well-trained caregiver who communicates these observations to the hospice nurse can directly impact a patient's comfort and safety. So train your team to document and report consistently. Use a simple daily log that can be shared with hospice case management. Also, when somebody's on hospice, there is usually a bright orange sheet of paper on the refrigerator called a DNR, and it'll have the hospice phone number, name, everything on it as well. But it's more important that you get that before you're ever even in the home. Keys to effective communication: establish a direct contact at each hospice agency that you work with. Use standardized observation reporting form for your caregivers. Hold brief family meetings when care needs shift. Never assume hospice already knows anything. You should always report everything that you're seeing. Attend care plan meetings when possible, or if you're invited, and communicate changes in client conditions same day. Always report everything immediately. So training your caregivers to work with hospice clients. So working with a hospice client is different from your standard home care. Your care needs specialized knowledge, emotional preparation, clear guidance on their role within the hospice team. This is one of the most impactful investments your agency can make. So understand the hospice philosophy. Train caregivers on what hospice is and what it isn't. Emphasize that the goal is comfort, dignity, and quality of life. It's not a curative treatment. So they really need to understand that shift in mindset is essential for caregivers coming from a traditional medical model. Know the signs of decline. Teach the caregivers to recognize common signs that client's condition is changing. The decreased appetite, increased sleeping, changes in breathing pattern, skin color changes, and withdrawal. Knowing what to look for and when to report it is super, super important, especially if you want repeat referrals from this hospice agency. If you're communicating with them and they're getting all of this valuable feedback from your caregiver, they're more than likely going to continue to refer to you. Communicate with the family. Families under stress or terminal diagnosis need empathy and clarity. Train your caregivers to compassionately communicate, how to listen actively, how to avoid saying the wrong thing, and when to redirect emotional conversations to the host, social worker and the chaplain. The one concern or issue I've had with my hospice caregivers is some of them come in and want to take over. I've been doing this for 25 years and they want to run the show. So it's really important that they understand we take direction from hospice. The hospice is in charge. We're here as a secondary. We may be here more often, but we're not calling the shots. It's not your role. It's not your job. So we need to respect boundaries and our scope. Caregivers must understand what they are and what they're not, and what they're authorized to do. They should never adjust medications, make medical decisions, or provide clinical care. Their role is supportive and observational, and that role is deeply valuable. Annette, Lisa, do you guys have anything to add? Have you ever had your caregivers try to take charge of a situation like this because they've been doing hospice for so long?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of other situations too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would just make sure, say, hey, always call the office. Maybe they see something going on. They're not a medical professional. The hospice agency is calling all the shots. If they have any issues, they need to call the office. But yeah, a lot of time caregivers, and I think they do it out of their heart.
They do.
They've been doing it a while and they think they know what the right thing is to do, but they have to make sure they understand their role.
And they should understand the family's going to come up and say, do you think the end is coming? Like,
Right.
how close is it? I had a caregiver one time say, oh no, she's still eating. It's fine. And then the client died that evening. Our caregivers can't answer those questions and they need to be prepared to say, we'll have to check with hospice. And I don't care if they've been doing it 25 years. They still cannot answer those questions and they should be prepared with some kind of answer because they're going to get asked. It's a really hard position to be in, to ask those things and not have the answers. Lisa, anything to add?
No, I think in every situation, those career caregivers that have been doing this a really long time sometimes just come in and want to take over. And that's, I think, on a side note, that's why I always made sure that I didn't have just one caregiver anywhere. I don't care if it was just smaller shifts or what, but I always tried to rotate at least two. So I don't want any caregiver taking over the job or thinking that they are in charge. And I had to go out and regulate a lot of those. Some way, like, this is not how it's going to be. It's going to come from the office or hospice to the office, then to you guys. So definitely understanding their role.
That's a really good point. When you have and the family wants just one caregiver, right? And that's what they don't want, people hustling and bustling and coming in. And my mom already met one person. I don't want her. And I understand that from their perspective, but Lisa's right. If you have just one, the odds of them taking control and taking over and being in charge are much higher than if you have more than one caregiver. And that goes for any case. It's better to have, and plus you backup. If someone calls out or something, there's backup. So that's a really
knowledgeable backup.
It is knowledgeable backup. It's not someone going in on the fly because somebody called,
Right.
someone who's been there before. It's somebody they're comfortable with already. So yeah, that's really important. It's a great point, Lisa. Emotional preparedness, supporting your caregiving team. So this work is hard. Getting them prepped ahead of time is support. That's the biggest support you can give them is what can they expect when they're there? Make sure they're trained, make sure they understand protocol. That's a lot of support before they even walk in the door. Working with clients at end of life is the most meaningful and most emotionally demanding things caregivers can ever do. Grief, loss, emotional exhaustion, they're all real risks for your team. Agencies that support their caregivers through this work see lower turnover and higher quality care. And yes, supporting them is important, super important. Something that I noticed in my years of experience is and even if they're with this client before they're on hospice, and then they go to hospice and they've been with this person for a year, maybe or so, their client dies, they will go look to work at another company. They think that's it. They think that their job has been terminated because their client died. I don't know why they think this, but they do. And so being involved and being there emotionally and supporting them and letting them know, we know she's going to pass. We're really sorry. We're here for you. We will be here for you when it happens. We will find you another client. They need to know that it doesn't end when the client dies. Did you guys have that happen to you too?
I think that they're worried about
Yes.
their bills and they're like, oh my gosh, they're not going to have another person for me for how long? So getting a hold of them right away. And a lot of times, I guess it's 50-50. Sometimes that caregiver's there when the person passes and sometimes they're not. We have to let them know. And at that time is, I think, what you're about to get into, the supporting them. Sometimes you might even need a day or two off. It just really depends on how long they've been with that person. And even for us as a supervisor, when I would go in and I would do pop-ins and hospice and 24-hour cases, I popped in a lot more too to make sure that everything was going okay. And even I would feel a certain type of way anytime someone would pass. I'm like, oh my God, for the family, seeing everyone crying, it brought out such emotion for me too. So I could imagine someone who's there all the time with that person. So supporting them, I think, and letting them know that you are there for them you have another job when they're ready.
Yes. Yeah.
They need some time off. So I think
I think we should be looking, if we do think that it's down to the last day or so, scheduling should be looking, and as cold and that sound, they need to pay their bills, like Lisa said. And so letting them know, we understand it's getting close. Like, we're looking for a client for you. The hours that you want the same hours. What are you thinking? And that might be difficult for them, but they will appreciate the fact that we're looking out for them. And that's important. Sure. So supporting them, debrief after client passes, even a brief check-in call matters. We absolutely should be calling to see how they're doing. Normalize grief. Let staff know it's okay to feel loss and to be sad. Offer connection to hospice bereavement services. Many of these agencies extend that service to your caregivers. I didn't know that. I think that's a great idea. Rotate difficult assignments when a caregiver is emotionally depleted. So if they come out the hospice case and they're exhausted, maybe you don't send them to the house with 7 cats the next day, right? Give them a little bit of a break. Don't send them to the place where no one else can handle it the very next day. Lisa said they might need a day or two off, and they might, and that's okay. We need to give them that. Recognize and celebrate their work. End of life care is a profound gift. And the fact that they were there end of life, many of my caregivers would get the client kind of cleaned up before the family walked in too. Like they really take this, they just do an amazing job. It's just incredible. It's definitely a special kind of caregiver that can do this and that wants to do this.
Definitely.
Growing the partnership, building referral relationships with hospice agencies. Hospice agencies are among the most valuable referral sources for home care agencies and vice versa. Building a formal, trusted referral relationship benefits both organizations and, more importantly, the clients and families you both serve. So how do you position your agency as a hospice partner? Hospice providers are selective about who they choose. And so if you can train your caregivers in hospice care, not as a hospice aide, but just as a home care caregiver, what do you need to do? What do you need to know? And you have that training and you share that with your these hospice companies that you want to refer to you. That helps. Like, they trust you then. So get trained and certified, pursue hospice specific caregiver training programs, and document your staff's Competencies: consider training in palliative care fundamentals, end-of-life communication, comfort care techniques. And so if you can give them some hospice training and show these hospice agencies that your caregivers, and you don't do all the caregivers, just the ones that are interested in hospice, show them that you have that certification or some kind of hospice training, that will help them to trust you. Introduce yourself formally, schedule a meeting with the director of patient care or the volunteer coordinator at local hospice agencies. Bring materials that explain your services, your coverage area, and your caregiver training standards. They're going to want to know that they've been criminally background checked and any of that kind of screening that you do, because you're sending them into their patient's home. So think about that. They're going to want to know that they've been trained, they've been screened, you've called their references. All of those things, they're going to want to see that. Be responsive and reliable. When a hospice case manager calls you for a referral, respond quickly. Always respond quickly. Always get back to them. Nothing builds a referral relationship faster than being an agency that says, yes, we can help you. And then you deliver on the promise that you're quick about it. They don't have to wait for an answer. When they hear you say, let me check with my scheduling team, they just go, oh, no, I just want you to take it. Like, we're desperate. So try really hard to be super responsive. Share the outcomes and feedback. Close the loop with your hospice partners. Let them know how the client is doing. Share observations from your caregivers and ask for feedback on how you can improve the collaboration. This goes really far. It's really mostly about communication. Talking to families, reframing the conversation. When a family asks, we already have hospice, why would we need home care too? Your team needs a clear, empathetic, and honest answer. Here are some key messages you can share. Hospice visits are scheduled. We're here in between. So that's a really great statement, and then explain what that means. We help the whole family, not just the patient. And for me, this has been the biggest piece. And they are afraid to go to the bathroom. They're afraid to go to the grocery store. They're afraid to go to sleep. They're going to miss something. And they just need that emotional support of someone who's been through this before. I think that's a big piece of it too. When you send someone who has done 5, 6, 7 hospice clients or been doing it for 15 years, the family leans into that strength. It's really hard to watch your loved one just disappear. And with that caregiver there's a lot of support that comes with that. And we're a part of the team. It's a team collaboration. Hospice and home care, we do this all the time together. This is how it works. This is what's to be expected. The value we bring by the numbers. So the case for combining home care and hospice is not just philosophical, it's practical, measurable, meaningful for clients and family. 90% of seniors, people want to die at home, 90%. And so having just hospice there isn't typically enough. And 9% of them want to die at home. So that is why we partner together. We're 24/7. We gap in hospice coverage. We cover those gaps. 3 times more time at bedside. Caregivers spend significantly more time. They are there 3 times more than anybody from hospice. So it's really an important role. And 1 in 3 family caregivers are at risk of depression and burnout, and they're exhausted. And nothing's going to burn them out more than a family member on hospice. It's exhausting for them because they're emotionally attached. Even just providing regular home care with a client that's not on hospice, they'll always say to me, my mom is so hard. She's so difficult. None of your caregivers are going to like her. This isn't hospice, just in general. And I say, we're not emotionally attached to your mom. It's a whole different thing. Yep. And that helps. It helps so much to not be, I always say they're going to like your mom. They're going to enjoy your mom. And they say, no, they're not. And I think they will. But they're not emotionally attached. There's no baggage. There's no history. It's a fresh, brand new start with a brand new person. It's not the same relationship. And so that usually puts them at ease. But the family burnout is a real thing, especially in hospice. So these are just some numbers that you can share with those patients. A day in the life integrated care model. So this is what a typical day might look like. In the morning, the caregiver arrives, they assist, they document notes. Midday, a hospice nurse may come by, assess and adjust care. Afternoon, the caregiver offers companionship and some light tasks. Evening, night, overnight, caregiver monitors reports changes. And so this is the kind of what the day-to-day life could look like for the caregiver, for the family. The hospice nurse came by this day. They don't come by every single day either. So, but this is why home care is so needed when it comes to hospice. So the goal is dignity, comfort, and presence at the end of life. At the heart of everything, the training, the partnerships, communication protocols, and referral relationships is a single profound goal, helping people live out their final days with dignity, comfort, and the people they love around them. And this picture, that's what's happening. The caregiver is there, but not right there front and center. And then when the family needs to go, caregiver comes back. So they definitely have a strong presence, and they're there when needed. The greatest gift we can give a dying person is not just clinical excellence. It is the consistent, compassionate presence of someone who shows up day after day and says, I'm here, you're not alone. That's the gift the caregivers give every single day. And when paired with clinical expertise of a hospice team, it becomes something truly extraordinary. So your key takeaways are, and your next steps are to educate your team on the hospice model. Maybe pick a handful of caregivers that would be good hospice caregivers. Maybe you already have some hospice caregivers. Develop or update your hospice care training. You definitely have to have some hospice training for these caregivers if they're going to report back correctly. And if you're going to gain that partnership with some hospice agencies, they're going to want to see that training. Reach out to local hospice agencies. Identify maybe 2 or 3 that you would like to get to know. Many of them have weekly morning meetings where they might let you bring coffee or donuts and talk about your services. And everyone comes to that. The social workers, the nurses, everybody's in those morning meetings. That's what I've done. How about you, Annette, Lisa? Did you come to like a morning hospice meeting, or how did you partner?
I would do in-services with the hospice teams and pop in like one of their meetings and do a presentation. And we had a couple, like 2 or 3 really nice hospice agencies here in our area that most of the doctors and that would recommend the patients to go to. So I would try to do in-services, stop by, bring them coffee, constantly connect with them. And they always have a lot of case managers and social workers. I used to find there was always new staff that didn't know about us. They didn't know about us. I don't know, Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, same. In fact, they would say, hey, we have our meetings on this day. Would you like to pick a day and come and bring us to talk with us and tell us about you? So yeah, definitely the same.
I found it to be helpful too to have the hospice rep come and talk to my team also. Like, what do they need from the caregiver? What do they need from our scheduling team? What are their expectations too? Because it was better coming from them than coming from me for that partnership. I wanted everyone in the office to be aware of how hospice works, what they do, what does a social worker do, what is the chaplain's role, like all of it, just so that they would understand. Sometimes my scheduling team, because a hospice aide might do some bathing, they saw him as a competitor. And I'm like, no, it's not. So it was nice to have, and the rep wants to come in and speak to your office. So I think that's even they're not going to probably do a hospice training for your caregiver, but at least talking about the hospice role and that side of it to the caregivers would also be good. Maybe record it and you can use that as a part of your training ongoing too. You also want to update your family messaging, review the language your team uses when speaking with prospective clients that are on hospice. We want to make sure we're saying the right things and not promising the wrong things, and that the family understands the roles between hospice and the caregiver. And support your caregivers emotionally, very important. Make sure they're really prepared to walk in that home, and then support them emotionally. Lisa and Annette, do you guys have anything to add to the key takeaways? Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to go back. You mentioned recording hospice. And so when I had 2 offices that I couldn't get to meet because we were about an hour and a half apart, Glendale and Prescott. And so I actually had invited I think we used Teams back then, but to a Teams meeting to go over. So that's one way you could do it as well, especially if you have multiple offices. And it was nice. It was very casual and it was great. The other thing I did want to mention is that and goes to caregivers, supporting them. Almost every time I've had caregivers who were on shifts that were longer shifts, we ended up having that person long term, and then they ended up hospice, and then all of that. When the person passed, the family always wanted to gift them something. And so I think that bringing that up before it happens is a good idea, because it's okay. The family does not want to give it to us, but they have to send it to us, and then we can mark down whatever it was, if it was this value, and then we can give it to the caregiver. But I think that's something that is a weird situation that it could put the caregiver in because they don't want to say no. And
Right.
because they love their family and it's just a weird, awkward place. So I think bringing that up to the family and to the caregiver tastefully and when we're onboarding and things like that. But just to keep that in mind, because they are going to want to gift their caregivers because it's what a unique position they're in to be there helping that person go on to the next plane and just being there for them. It's such an honor and it's just a different thing. And so it just needs to be addressed because it's not like just getting $20 here or there. It's definitely something way different. And they want to reward them and say thank you for taking such good care of their loved one.
And Lisa, we have a question. When would you bring that up to the family and client and to the caregiver?
I think that's something that there's lots of times. It's going to depend on the conversation and where you're at with that family. But a lot of times the family will even ask because when we're signing paperwork, we bring that up.
It's in the paperwork. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. It's right there in the intake. It's right there during the assessment. And so just making sure that's reinforced so that the caregiver doesn't get in trouble. That's really a big piece of it. But
and did
so
you
I
have
think
a limit, Lisa, on how much, what the dollar amount?
I can't quite remember, but I think it was $100 of value.
Ours was 50, nothing over 50.
Yeah, ours was 52. And I think
ours was
onboarding too.
100.
I was going to say
Was that California, maybe? It's a higher cost.
Yeah,
probably.
It's more expensive here. I can't remember exactly what it was. I could be fibbing on accident, but I think it was like
should be in the agreement. This is a part of the agreement where you're not allowed to gift our caregivers, and we know you want to.
Yes.
And if you really want to, you can call the office, talk about it, and we will present that to the caregiver.
Yeah.
On your behalf. Yeah.
But it's definitely during the intake, and then when someone passes, the family usually I swear, I would get so many texts or calls. We really loved such and such. Can we give her something? And then I would explain kind of the rules of engagement, and then it would go from there.
Yeah.
They were happy to do it. So they were like, whatever we need to do so that she doesn't get in trouble and so that everyone's in a good position.
And then I would tell them too, if you want, you can also leave her a Google review through our company that mentions the first name. And she'll keep that and save it, and she'll put it on her application or her next whatever. It's a big deal to see that online about yourself. So that's another piece of something that we started doing. It was called an exit interview, and we would talk with the family and the caregiver after to make sure, like on the support side for the family and the caregivers, it's just make sure everything went okay. And that, like, as hard as we work to get the clients, we also want to make sure, and now that they're leaving services, that they were happy with everything. And we're making sure that they leave with a smile, and that makes sure that they will come back to us or refer to us if they have any loved ones that need our help, not just hospice, but any type of care.
Yeah.
Lisa, this is Linda from Illinois, and I think we're a little bit different. We're an outlier. We actually have supportive living. And so hospice, we do have individuals, and I was sending a note to our team because we've had 2 people recently that were in hospice and supportive living. So I don't know how you speak to that in this group setting, in this context, because we're a little bit different. They're not in their home is their apartment in the supportive living facility. So if you could speak to that, I would if there are any ideas.
I think it's the same ground rules. That is their home. So you're still walking into their home, whether it's under a larger building. And so I think everything still applies pretty much the same. You guys have supportive living. I know we talked about this the other day, that you had quite a few people that just passed recently, but you have caregivers, right? And do you have skilled, or do you have hospice on site, or are you bringing hospice in?
We bring hospice in.
Okay. So I think it's the same. It's still the home. Is it you guys making the decision, or is it the resident and their family making the decision?
It's a joint decision. It's something that is negotiated between the family and the facility.
I would say you're probably much more involved in that piece of it than home care.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And they probably really trust your
because there is no home care worker. There is a hospice worker, and our staff does so it's basically definitely negotiated because our staff is doing the role that I'm hearing you say that a home care worker would do. So there's no caregiver. The caregiver is the CNA that has
Right.
been with them the entire time. And then the hospice piece is a supplement to what's going on in the
Right.
plan of care.
Do you guys ever have to like outsource to bring in other caregivers, or do you ever run into that issue?
Based upon level of care, there are times when it begins to be too much for our staff to do. And so we will negotiate with the family to say, look, in order for them to stay, hospice isn't here every day. They're not 24/7. So some families will pay and bring in an extra caregiver. Sometimes that daughter or that son the family becomes part of the rotation.
It sounds like you need to have a home care agency on deck or a couple that you want to work with or that you work well with, so you can bring them in when that one-on-one care is needed, that one-on-one support is needed.
I would say too, you probably need even more emotional support for your team when they lost. Because they've been really with them side by side. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I know we were talking, Linda, too, about doing like memorial things for some folks that passed away at your community, and like the cards. I think it'd be a good idea to do some things like that for your caregivers too, especially if they lose someone they've been working with all the time and forever. So having something like that, and then maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, Linda, but get days off or like a couple days off just to regroup if they need it. Maybe they're even like, not just throw that out there, but paid or other, I don't know, but
Right.
yes, but I think that it all works a little bit the same, but you have to move it around a little bit.
Exactly. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm glad you asked. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Different perspective. Annette, you're up.
Definitely.
Okay, everybody, Go sales training. I know I have a bunch of our class members here today. We offer the sales training classes. We usually have a couple a month. We have our May and our June classes posted. We still have openings. Let me know if you're interested. It's once a week for an hour, 12 weeks. Lots of good information. I say we spoon feed you. We cover every referral source. If you follow what we say and you're out there, most people, you do get a referral by week 6. And I love to hear everybody's successes and how well everybody's doing. So we'd love to have you. If you're interested, let us know. May and June, we still have openings in all the classes. So let us know.
All right. Perfect. Okay, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.